Eastmond. What a wonderful name. It's an ancient Anglo-Saxon name, in fact, if you're wondering, that was given to a person who was of grace or favourable protection. And the surname, as I'm sure Mark and John know, was first found in the Domesday Book in 1086. Yeah, you may be fully familiar with a few famous Eastmonds. Craig Leon Eastmond, a semi-professional English footballer who plays for Sutton United in the National League, who's busy preparing for the game against Chesterfield tonight, so we couldn't speak to him. Next on the list is Richard T. Eastmond, who's an American fighter pilot, a flying ace in the US Navy during World War II, who was credited with 9 aerial victories in Fighting Squadron 1. He died in 1981, so he's unavailable for us tonight. So we are going to a man straight out of St Mary's Estate in Oldham, the only human being that I know with the middle name Ovid. Welcome to Out of Your League. John and Mark, put your withered hands together for Mr. Kyle Eastmond.
Ovid.
That was lovely.
Ovid. He kept that one quiet. You kept Ovid quiet, Kyle.
Do you blame me?
Yeah, no, you're right. No, it was
Is that your dad's name?
Reflection.
Yeah, it's my dad's name, yeah.
Yeah, on reflection of the team that Kyle came through in St Helens, keeping that quiet probably was in his best interests. And we'll definitely come on to talk about Kyle's, I'd say, trajectory into the St Helens first team and some of the lads who he used to travel with, which was, I suppose, a big part of his development. But if your middle name is Ovid, you would keep that from these toxic men who he used to travel with.
Definitely.
When did you come across Mark Flanagan on the mean streets of Oldham back in the day, Kyle?
Oh, probably
We both grew up in the hood, didn't we?
No, he didn't, mate. I've never seen him anywhere near there, to be honest. But probably 13, 14, service area, Oldham Town team, yeah, something like that, Flan.
Yeah, and Kyle's uncle was quite a good player and on the Oldham amateur scene, and he played for Saddleworth Rangers. And I'd go watch on a Saturday, and Kyle would be there, and we'd kind of throw a ball around for a few years. And he'd always be dressed up in his Saints kit because he was always a team prodigy, and I'd have my scruffs on because nobody wanted me.
And they still don't. No one wants you. John, what was it? What kind of beans have you got to spill on Eastmond from when you first met him? Because, I mean, Mark wasn't at Saints with Carl, but you were.
Well, yeah, look, I think there's one thing that struck me about Kyle when I first met him, and there's a few serious points here and a few not so. But the first thing that struck me about Kyle was confidence. And Kyle's confidence was born out of an era where Instagram wasn't around, social media was really just getting going. It was not a confidence born out of anything other than just being incredibly talented at something. And Kyle might be the last young player that came through that walked in and had confidence, and it was justified, valid, in all the right ways. And there's a lot of guys now who are in the same position. I'm not discrediting them. But at this time, I don't think there was this, what I'd call like pseudo-confidence that exists now, where everyone inflates their own tyres beyond where they're really at. When Kyle walked in, he made a really fierce and like aggressive group of men take him seriously. And that was my first impression of Kyle. And I think about like the challenges he had actually at that time, walking into that changing room. The fact that he did it and conducted himself like he did made me understand a lot about this guy, that he's resilient and that he could deal with the ups and downs what any sports career brings. But my first impression, confidence, but not arrogance, just pure confidence in the best possible way.
Kyle, we're going to go around the houses a bit, and we're going to take you back, and we're obviously going to look forward to an exciting move to Leeds for you as well. Firstly, what does it feel like to be back in rugby league? What have you missed, because you've had a bit of time to think about this?
Yeah, obviously it's it is exciting to come back for me at this stage in my career, but probably missed. I think probably just the integrity that you get in rugby league in terms of the people, and I'm not saying that in any way against any other people from rugby union or anything, but there is a difference. Do you know what I mean? There is a difference in terms of people's agendas, what people are actually trying to get out of their careers. And And in rugby league, I just find the integrity a little bit more in touch with who I am. So probably just missed that side of things really. But like you say, it is exciting to get back, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead.
That's interesting you say integrity. Yeah, I mean, if I was to ask you how different a person you think you are, Kyle, to the guy who left league and the guy, who's spent all those years in Union and now has come back, because you've developed as a guy, as a human as well in that time. But how different are you, do you think? What's changed?
I'm definitely different, massively different, and to be honest, I owe that to that move I made at that age, and without that move, I don't think I would be who I am today. So I've definitely changed, definitely grown up and seen I don't know, life a little bit differently. Obviously now I've come back, I'm a father now and stuff like that, so that helped me as well. So yeah, I'm definitely a different person to the person that left.
I was going to say, John, to you, when Carl first came in, and bearing in mind he's a working class black lad from Oldham, as we've established, and in a world like rugby league, that is so different to Union, which Carl's going to get onto. But was he seen as different to you guys when he came into that St Helens squad?
I think there's a thing with Kyle. Like I never looked at things like his skin color or his class. Like I just wouldn't even consider, that when I was looking at the kid. I think it was all about competence for me, and when you're doing a job of work, and when you're in a rugby team, it's a job, right? You want people to come in and contribute and increase the value of your team, and they can do that in loads of ways. Like some guys come in and lighten the mood. There's some guys who socially bring things to the team, and there's some guys who bring absolute pure, undistilled performance, and that was what Kyle brought to our team. And was it difficult for Kyle? Look, I've got no fucking idea whether it was difficult for him or not, but for me, watching somebody come in like Kyle was easy, It made my job easier playing with somebody like Kyle, and that is what you want from a teammate, somebody who can add more than he takes away. And if you create more than you consume in sport, you keep going. As soon as you start consuming more than you create, you're gone. And that's how brutal sport is. And I think looking back, again at that time, like I mentioned in the prelude, is, I think a lot about Kyle. I think a lot about the time when he left Saints and why that came about. I think a lot about, that his opening few years at the club, where he travelled over with Nick Fozzard, Paul Anderson, Leon Price, Lee Gilmore in a Citroen Picasso, right? I think a lot about it. I wake up at night, Will, worried. I'm still worried now about some of the things that went on in that car. Will, it's just not right. And you can't speak about in this day and age. If you brought that up, Kyle, if you blew the lid off that, there would be 5 pairs of handcuffs going through Wakefield, Dewsbury and Batley now. But I think a lot about that time, and the time at which he left Saints, and that stuck with me for a long time, because it didn't sit well with me that time. All of it, every bit of when Kyle had to leave, and I suppose I've kept close-ish, not like I'm ringing Kyle every week, but he's always been on my thoughts at that point at which he left.
Well, look, Carl, let's get stuck into that then, because look, John touched on it there, but there was, and I know perhaps inside the world of rugby league, certainly inside the world of St Helens, people are more aware of this story, but I'm talking to those who perhaps aren't. And there was that controversy in your final year at St Helens. You were suspended by the club after making, I don't know, what I read was an appropriate gesture towards the home fans. What was going on during that time in your head that led you to leave Saints and to join Bath? I know you were dropped to the under-18s because they then recalled you because of injuries, and you were booed by the club's fans. Was that a difficult time for you? Is it a time you look back on now and have sort of different thoughts on?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was very difficult, to be honest. Obviously, the club that I joined since I was 11 years old. So listen, mate. There was things that happened in that time, but listen, St Helens is a club that I care about and I respect as much as any club that I've ever played for. So So listen, I know things, didn't go right for them few months, but I was there from 11 years old for 10 years, and it's a club that I respect more than anything. So it was disappointing, the way I ended. There was a lot going on. I thought I done the right thing by announcing I was going to go to rugby union early enough in the season so the club could replace me. But ultimately, and it wasn't just St Helens, if I'm honest, at all. It was the whole of rugby league, really, because at the time, I was the current England number 7. I was the St Helens number 7, and I announced I'm going to rugby union. So we can't just say it was totally St Helens. The whole of rugby league, wasn't happy with that, which I prefer that because it showed the value that I had in the game at the time. But it was tough. I was carrying an injury. I was leaving rugby league. I was leaving St Helens, and it was all. And I was 21. Do you know what I mean? I was immature. Well, yeah, I was immature, basically. There was some things that I could have done a lot better, and there was some things that other people and other things could have done a lot better, but we didn't get it right that time. But I don't hold nothing at all against St Helens at all. It was just, it's just a poor exit, really, from rugby league. But, yeah.
And did that, in that incident and that time, did it validate your decision to go to rugby union? Did it make you reinforce that you'd made the right decision because you've been treated in this way, not just by Saints, but by the rugby league family, and then it kind of made you want to spur you on a little bit more in rugby union? No,
not at all. Genuinely, Flanny, it didn't. I didn't think about it like that for 1 second. It probably took over me, which looking back now, I understand, like, it was probably a challenge that I could have, if I was a little bit older, I probably would have dealt with things a little bit better, but I wasn't capable or experienced enough or had the right support around me. Don't get me wrong, I've got good support, but I mean as in advice, as in experienced people who might have been through these sort of things or anything like this. So I didn't have that. So, it was just, I took it quite bad, really. I was quite, I was injured. I was quite down about what was happening, really. I thought I'd done the right thing by announcing to England Rugby League and my club that I'd leave in March to give them a full season to replace me. But ultimately, the reaction was quite heavy. And,
I mean, look, that is a big thing, though, isn't it? Wilco can come in on this as well, because I'm sure Wilco and Mark have been booed by their own fans for very different reasons. But what is that like? Because the people that you've grown up in front of, and you said you were at the club, Kyle, since you were a kid.
Yeah.
To be booed by the people that you've been doing the thing that you love so much as a youngster. Do you know what I mean? As a teenager.
Yeah, no, that was difficult. Your family are in the crowd, and to be honest, it's probably more difficult on them, really. Like, I'm playing rugby at the end of the day. Like, when I'm tackling someone or I'm taking the ball, or I'm not really thinking about this, but you've got your family, your mum and your sisters are watching, and they're probably feeling it quite heavy as well. So it was difficult, but really and truly, like I said, now I'm a lot older. It just shows probably the value I had at 21 years old, that a sport, a club, fans would feel the need to do that. Just showed that, I had a level of respect.
Yeah, the benefit of time, Will, I think, with things like that is, like Kyle said, he's a young man having to deal with being booed by fans of a club. Like, and Kyle has just admitted there that had he had the skill set, sort of the mental dexterity and the experience he's got now, like, you understand the pros and cons of sport. When you're 20, 21, like, it's a very young age to be exposed to something like that. I dealt with it throughout my career at different times, but I dealt with it probably when I was at an age where I'd made this rationalisation in my mind that we're just entertainment for people, and people have a bad week and they want to be entertained and they want to boo, and it's pantomime, innit? They need a villain, they need somebody to cheer, and that's sport. Once you get your ego too far into something and you forget that you're just there purely for the entertainment of others, it's dangerous. But the thing is, when you're young, like, geez, you had no idea that that's what you're doing. You're just enjoying things, and that's why I thought a lot about Kyle, at that time, because there's a lot going on for this young guy, and I think you learn a lot in that time, don't you, Kyle?
Oh, massively, yeah. I think probably didn't learn that though. Like you're saying, Wilco, is like it was only 2 years after you realise what you actually learned. At the time, you're quite bitter about like why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, but like as years go on, like you say, I've learned a lot out of them situations and that time. Really, I've learned loads out of it.
Carl, look, I haven't got a filter, so I ask the awkward questions and you can bat them away.
No problem.
But just looking at it from the outside then, the move to Bath, had the decision been made in your head that you wanted to go to Union, whether it was money or whatever, but you wanted to go to Union, you had your heart set on that, and it was a case of Saints then sort of pushing back on it and saying, right, well, look, we'll put you in the under-18s, you're going to train over there, and then the club's the fans found out, etc., and it kind of went from there.
It kind of went from there. Yeah, literally. Once I did sign to go to rugby union, things did change like that. I can't really remember. I can't really remember Wilco, why I did end up playing in the under.
But I mean, in terms of like how people turned on you, Carl. Like there was obviously a point where fans and people at the club turned on you for whatever reason.
Yeah. It was literally because I was going to rugby union. That was it.
If I look back at the time as well, Will, we had this moment where we were on the pitch and we were training, and I think Kyle ran the team, right? So Kyle's 21 and he ran the team. Royce Simmons, the coach at the time, was trying to get us to do something, and Kyle was having just a normal conversation, actually, looking back with Royce about maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, and Royce lost his rag and was they got into a bit of a slanging match on the training ground, but it was genius because Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook was up on disciplinary, and Scott Moore, who was a crazy guy who played with us, had hidden Louis' keys. And in the middle of this argument...
He did his pants.
He hid his pants. He hid his tracksuit bottoms with his keys in. So Royce and Kyle are having this head-to-head argument on the pitch. And Royce stopped halfway through and goes, fucking hell, who's got Louis' keys? It was like, Scott Moore was like, they're in his pants, I'll go get them, and ran off. Kyle and Royce are in the middle of the pitch having this argument. It's just a surreal sort of moment. But it was around that time that
yeah,
there was a lot of negativity, you know what I mean? And it's not, it's not, it wasn't right, you know what I mean? I agree with you. Well, what you said, that timeline actually was quite cruel on a young guy, looking back. But sport is cruel, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look, Mark, I was going to ask you that because it's not always plain sailing, isn't it? I know when you left Saints, it's not just a case of, because you know when another club is trying to recruit you and there's a time frame, you don't know whether you're getting a new contract. I'm not saying that you had a big move to rugby union in that sense, but it's never plain sailing to leave a club, and it can leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth, can't it?
No, it's not plain sailing, and I think the most frustrating thing whenever you receive backlash from fans is the fact that they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't think many Saints fans were that arsed that I went to Salford, but I can remember a couple of games during my career when we've lost quite heavily, and the reception that we received from the fans was quite disgusting at times. I remember playing for Salford and we'd lost a game, and I think I got knocked out and I split my head open, and I went to clap the fans after the final whistle had gone, and there was supporters making eye contact at me, swearing, saying the worst names you can imagine at me, who just poured his heart out onto the field and split his head up and done everything he could for that badge and for those fans. And even though you rationalise it and you can try and say that it's just entertainment, it's just a game, and it's just their natural reaction, it does hurt. And I think to be victimised in the way that Kyle was must have been pretty tough at his age.
But I think as well, right? If you take praise, right? So when somebody gives you a compliment, like you absorb it, you probably enjoy it. Somewhere inside, it really makes you feel nice. If you take those compliments in sport, you sort of have to take criticism to some extent. You know what I mean? It's just part of the game. Like criticism and praise are like treacherous fucking extremes of something that, you know, they're really dangerous. You spend too much time looking at the praise or criticism, and it's really bad for you. You know, you've got to be happy and neutral in sport, and that's the benefit of time in sport, that you find neutral. You're not in this moment where you're getting praised. You're not bothered about being criticised. You find this gap down the middle. And Will, actually, you in broadcasting, you know, you'll come across that, surely.
I think if you're comfortable in your own skin, you're not bothered about the praise. It's just the criticism that's perhaps unwarranted or uncalled for that probably gets the better of you.
Let me ask you this, Kyle. So when we're at the stage when you're leaving St. Helens then, right? And you've got this big, exciting move at the time, I imagine, to Bath, and you're already thinking about kind of World Cups down the line and, you know, major or Six Nations and so on, and playing for England in a different code. What was it like then when you were surrounded by the public school brigade, my guys, my gang, when and how you know, I guess their route would have been so different to yours.
Yeah, it was different. You know what? Some of my best friends and some people that I'll be in contact with the rest of my life are public school educated and stuff, and that was one of the things that I wouldn't say it worried me. I think I was a bit not naive, but I was a bit fearless. I just turned up. I just thought, as soon as I get onto the rugby pitch, I can do this, so I'll be all right. But you know, a lot of the guys are from a very different upbringing, a different background, culture than somebody like me. Do you know what I mean? I'm coming from St. Mary's Estate one week, and next minute I'm living in the city centre of Bath, and I'm training up at this stately home, and people's parents have got businesses, and you know, and this isn't the be all and end all to them. This isn't life or death to them. Whereas to me, this is my opportunity to help my family, the first to help the family. You know what I mean? I've got nothing to fall back on. So that's the first thing that hit me. Like, I actually started to respect them even more, because they don't need to be here. I kind of do. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to be here, but when at that age, I'm the one with the opportunity in my whole family to try and, you know, build a foundation. These guys are here because they just love rugby. So that's ultimately where I respected them straight away. And like I say, it was different, but it was brilliant. Like I said, the best move I ever made, because it not only helped me on the pitch, but off the pitch as a person. I grew massively.
What about that pressure, Kyle, right? Talk to me about that pressure. You know, the pressure of you saying, right, you're the first guy or the first person in your family who can make a difference. So you get to rugby union, you're surrounded by people who have got means and who it doesn't really matter to them to be there. You know, just talk me through that. Is there's some pressure on you there, for sure.
Yeah. The pressure is massive, and I think, Wilco, if I'm honest, like you, I've probably just become brilliant at playing under pressure all the time. Like, I can't remember not playing under pressure, even when it's not a big game or whether I'm playing under 18s academy. I've always had pressure, but I just kind of never understood why. But it's only now I'm experienced and I understand the pressures that I put myself under. Listen, my family, they don't want nothing from me. They don't expect anything from me. But I know I'm the only one up to date that could actually even do something to help. Even if that is, listen, I'd never been in a house that was bought until I bought a house. None of my friends, nobody I grew up with, none of my family, nobody lived in a house that was bought. We lived in council estates. We lived, do you know what I mean? So the pressure I was carrying was just trying to build the foundation. We're not even trying to go to 100. We're just trying to build one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the sort of thing that I was carrying, really. So it was a bit of pressure, but yeah, maybe that's probably what helped me on the pitch, though, Wilco. Maybe that's what it was. Do you know what I mean?
And have you put that pressure on yourself for a long time? Because as you mentioned earlier, you signed at Saints at 11, and I know some people that you know from a similar background to you in St Mary's, and they've gone down a very different path to what you've done. And I think the temptation to maybe follow that might have been easy and might have been the easy option, but to live the life you have, you've been very clean living for a long time. You don't really drink, I don't think. I think you like McDonald's every now and again, but you're pretty strict with yourself. Has that kind of been from childhood that you've kind of thought this is the way I can really make something of my life?
Yeah, I think so. Like, from the age of, even before St. Helens even came and spoke to me and stuff. I remember when St. Helens actually came and spoke to me at 10, and I'm in St. Helens, and this is put it into context. So my mum's working 4 jobs. So she works just 4 jobs in the town centre every hour of the day. And I'm in St. Helens, and Mike Rush approached me and asked me, can I speak to your mum or dad? And I'm like, I'm in the car with somebody else's mum or dad. Like, my mum works, like, she can't be here. So I had to literally give her the home phone number, like, and because I had no parents at the game. And then he called like a few days later to my mum, but she didn't understand what's going on at all. So the pressure that I felt was kind of like, I've got to try my best to try and make something here, because ultimately I don't know who's going to be able to do anything. So I think I've just carried it from a young age, Flan. Do you know what I mean? From 11, even without even knowing, I just feel like I've carried that kind of responsibility, basically, for my immediate family.
I really want to tap into a bit more the potential, definite class barrier and divide, and potential race divide of when you joined Union. Did you feel people turning their nose up at you?
I wouldn't say turning the nose up at me. No, I definitely felt there's no question there's a barrier. There's no question about that. I wouldn't say people was turning the nose up at me.
I mean, so that day when you go into a big camp at Bath, and you're in a completely different environment, as you've already alluded to, with people who've come from completely different backgrounds, and you perhaps weren't used to a variety of backgrounds like that from where you've come from.
Yeah,
there must have been a sort of a period where it took a breaking in period for you to get used to that world, that new world that you were just entering.
Oh yeah. It did take me a while. To be honest, it took me a good year to get to feel comfortable, really. But to be honest, I don't think that was down to the rugby union class or the rugby union culture divide. I think that was down to me and where I was coming from at St. Helens. I think I'd lost a lot, really, coming from St. Helens. It took that much out of me. I was quite unsure of myself at times, and unsure of, I think I can't remember even using my social media for a good few years. Do you know what I mean? I was just a bit worried, like getting hammered and stuff, and things like that. So I think it took me a year to really start feeling comfortable and come out my shell and start going, meeting the lads after training and being around the lads and voicing my opinion on stuff in and around the changing room. Rugby was no problem because I felt comfortable there, but just as a person, I think that year just took a lot out of me.
And look, I'll ask you straight up, Carl. Have you had any experiences of racism in whether it's league or union, and where was it more of a concern for you when you look back on that?
Yeah, I have, of course. I wasn't concerned. I'm not concerned about it in terms of hurting me as a person. It is sometimes. It can play on your mind a little bit to understand that, like, why is that even crossing people's minds? We're not here for that. We're here for the rugby, and the thing that really troubles me the most is why would we accept that it's not there when it's quite obvious? Do you know what I mean? And like I said, that's not somebody calling you a racist name. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the tone, things and
Is that a lack of education then? Where did that come from, Kyle? Where was it being directed at you from? From fans, from coaches, from within the clubs?
I've had it from fans before, twice. I've had it from fans, and to be fair, the people on the sidelines have actually voiced their opinion for me, and kind of stood up and stood their ground, which was good to see. But I've heard it from the fans, but like I say, it's not something that. It's something that I'm very aware of, and something that obviously I'm not going to be happy with. But it's something that I think needs some genuine. I'm trying to articulate it in the right way, but we need to be careful. We need to be very careful around this because at the moment I'm seeing a lot of representation of black people in sport. That's great, but at the same time we've got to be careful who we're passing the mic to, because there's some people that are accepted as black people in sport. Do you understand what I mean? And sometimes their words can actually be detrimental to what people are fighting for. So we've got to be careful of who we're passing the mic to, because, you know, everybody's black experience is different.
It's powerful, man.
Do you know what I mean? Like my black experience is different to somebody else's black experience. So we've got to be careful on, if he's saying he's never suffered racism, that doesn't mean I've never suffered it. So we've got to be careful of who we're passing the mic to, you know, because sometimes I feel like we're passing it to the right people to not really take care of this issue.
Is that frustrating, Kyle, to watch? Do you know the race issue?
Yeah.
Is it a frustration for you?
It is frustrating, but it's something that I've obviously not jumped 2 feet in, because, like I said, I think there needs to be a more strategic way of working on this, not just visual representation of black people all of a sudden. Like, we need this to be in a much better way. I think we can do this in a much better way. Sorry.
I'm being nosy here, Carl, but I just want to, you know, and this isn't about union and league and whatever and where you've experienced it more, but I just wanted to know, was that something that ramped up and that you were more aware of when you went down south and when you were in that sort of group of people, or was it something you were already experiencing from fans, example at St. Helens?
I didn't experience it from fans from St. Helens at all. I'd experienced it in both rugby league and union. Both different, but I've experienced it in both. Yeah.
Well, I think there's something interesting, Will, about the bias in sport. There's a media bias in sport, and there's a really subconscious little battle going on, right? And you know, I read some of the rhetoric about ex-rugby league players in the bigger newspapers, and I think it is outrageous that some of these newspapers get away with writing with a real subconscious tone of detriment to people who they believe shouldn't belong there. And I think the subconscious bias of it, it's not obvious. It's not in your face, right? You know, for example, there's a headline in the Times this weekend and it's saying it's Judgment Day for both the Farrells, and both, you know, Northern rugby league lads. You know, when Sam Burgess was he had a good game against Wales in the World Cup, and then they called him a rugby league refugee. Like, you can't use that language. It's irresponsible. You know, the way in which I think sometimes there's a difference in the general public, the supporting groups behind clubs, the management of clubs, the coaching staff of clubs, and 5 or 6 50 to 70-year-old white journalists who work for broadsheet papers. There's a whole different... We're not talking about... They're not a cross-section of society right there. You know, that's where I do see a bias. Whether Kyle's felt it or not, that's where I sensed it more than ever.
Well, Do you know what, Carl, as well? I mean, because it's so prevalent now, and quite rightly, you know, probably I'd say even from the George Floyd moment, how there's been a sea change, and it's gone across all society. It's good, but it has come into sport, and it's a brilliant thing, and it is about awareness, and you know, racial bias is huge. I don't know how much you felt that before, how much it's upset you before, but let me give you a few examples, because my work at the BBC, for example, we've spoken to Rio Ferdinand about this. We've spoken to all sorts of black footballers who are still playing, some who are not, and even phrases, right, that we would have all used. And again, this is an educational thing, but phrases, things that you just wouldn't. Obviously, we're not idiots, and you would look into the actual phrase and realise why have I been saying that for the last 5 or 6 years? Even things like harmless things in your head, nitty gritty, sold up the river, all these sorts of phrases which are used in commentary, which have all got, you know, slave connotations and things we shouldn't be saying. Look, me, Flash, and John will never be able to understand white privilege, because we won't. We won't be able to stand that. And I think it's a massive conversation to be had now, and hopefully people are starting to learn. I don't know whether you thought with some of your teammates, Kyle, whether it was a case of they just, you know, they didn't mean bad. You know, it's still awful to experience racism like that, but it was more of a lack of education than anything.
Yeah. There is that. I understand that part. Still, though, you know that is the problem, though, isn't it? That the fact that we're comfortable enough to sit there, and it shouldn't even cross your mind. Somebody's like, it shouldn't even cross your mind to even joke about someone's color. What is it? He's black. I'm white. I'm Asian. What? It doesn't matter, does it? No, I just. Yeah,
but we have, but Carl, let me interrupt you there, because we have to be aware of your color. I mean, that's the thing I hear. You know, black people saying that if you see me and you don't see color, then you're part of the problem in that sense. We have to be aware of it. It's not a case of just seeing you as someone else, is it? I mean, that's part of the issue these days.
Yeah, I agree totally. But I just feel like you said, whether it's a lack of education, I don't think it's a lack of education at all. I think that's part of one of the main problems is. We're accepting that we didn't know, or we need to be educated. We know about racism. It's the most obvious thing that's been around for hundreds of years. Like we can't put it down to we need some more educating. Everybody knows that there's racism. Everybody knows that these things have been happening for years. We can't all of a sudden now just take on the tone that we didn't know that was racist. Like. I don't buy that. I
think another issue that's not always considered is the subtle racism, and racial stereotyping. There's a concept in sport called stacking, which athletes are placed into certain positions due to like racial stereotypes. For example, black athletes are more powerful or faster than the white counterparts. Now, I think it's quite interesting that we've got Kyle on. Who's probably the only black scrum half that I can remember, he's got loads of attributes. He's fast, he's skillful, and he's a great decision maker. But it would have been easy for him to have been pushed into playing wing or centre, similar to a lot of other black players in rugby league and rugby union. And I think it's quite interesting that he does play number 7. Is an obvious 7. It's great decision making. He's got all the attributes, but I think a lot of players are pushed into the stereotype of you're black, you're big and fast, you go and play out wide. And I think it's an issue that we have in sport and society. And I just wonder if Kyle's ever experienced coaches during his younger days or professional career being pushed into playing more towards his physical attributes rather than the skill and the decision-making attributes that's predominantly more aligned to white rugby players.
Yeah, definitely. I've experienced that. It's actually frustrating at times, to be honest. You know, people, they forget that what you really are, and that's what I feel like. It's a bit embarrassing, really. If you do your research, you'll see what type of player a player is, and sometimes people will talk to me as if, Kyle, just get the ball and run, and I've seen. That's not my game. Like, that is part of my game, but I mean, there's another part of my game as well. So sometimes it's quite, it's quite disappointing, really, when people just don't give you the credit for what you actually are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I've known you a long time, and I hear the lazy comparisons with Jason Robinson, and on one aspect, that's a great compliment, because he's probably the best cross-code rugby player in the world ever, and he's an unbelievable player. But it's really lazy. Just because you're short, you're black, and you're quick doesn't mean you're Jason Robinson. It's a bit of an insult to your skill set and what you can do with the ball, just to assume that you're the next Jason Robinson. Has that comparison affected you or disappointed you in a way?
It's not affected me at all, but like you say, we couldn't be more opposite, really. We couldn't be with the polar opposite rugby player completely. But when I made the move to rugby union, you know, the articles was pictures of me and Robinson and the next Jason Robinson. And
it's so lazy, and that's racism. That's subtle racism.
The next Jason Robinson, like I can't remember Robinson ever passing a rugby ball. Like he's a genuine winger.
He couldn't pass.
And Carl, that's just down to you. That was just down to you being black. That comparison was drawn basically from, like you're saying, lazy journalism.
Well,
yeah, I think so, yeah.
He's black and quick. You know what I mean?
Quick.
But wait, we talk about rugby IQ, and then there's athletic ability, and they're like the two like conflicting things. And probably in union, like rugby IQ and like athletic ability are really split. Whereas in league, like it's becoming like almost one thing where you need to have a rugby IQ, you need to be a bit athletic. Whereas Kyle's gone into rugby union and he's running next to like, I don't know, like Alan Wynne Jones, and he looks like, well, God, you know what I'm saying? It's just like ridiculous. So, because of the split in rugby union, I think the comparison would have been made. But that's just like I think Flash said, like or Kyle said, just do your research. Give this. Kyle was an international rugby player when he went to rugby union. Do your research. Watch this try. I sent a try into the WhatsApp group for this podcast of your last minute try against Wigan. You know that
I played in that game.
Just do your research. Watch this guy manage a game, manage the flow, ebb and flow of a game, and then understand what he's about. Because Kyle managed a whole game as a 20-year-old kid. You know, he managed
and that's
20
so
big
rare.
egos.
And especially across all sports in the UK, it's rare that you've got a black athlete playing in the main decision-making position at such a young age. There's not been many central midfielders of black origin. There's not been many key fly halves in rugby union. Same in cricket. And I think it's quite groundbreaking that Kyle came through at 19, 20, 21, and he was the man, and he could have been, and probably still can be, a massive hero and an idol for lots of young black kids playing rugby league.
And look, Carl, I don't want to make this all about your race, but I think it's a fascinating conversation, and it's it's come right to the forefront recently, which is why it's interesting. And I just want to ask you this before we sort of move away from that: Did you feel that bias of a young working class black lad in union when it came to international selection? Because I remember watching your England performances, and I thought you were absolutely fantastic. You made your debut in 2013 against Argentina. You had 6 caps in the end, but only 6 caps. 3 of them against the All Blacks. I mean, wow, it doesn't get bigger than that in terms of in the Red Rose, does it? But you would have thought you would have had more than 6 over your career at playing for Bath, playing for Wasps, playing for Leicester, and before you come back to league.
100%. I think, it's not something that hurts me deeply, but I understand that I was better than 6 caps and I probably deserved a bit more. But ultimately, it's just a man's decision. It's just one guy's decision that decides I want to play this player, and that's that. I did enough to get more, but I didn't, and I'm just quite proud that, like, something I look at when I finish playing, that I managed to go over there again, and like Flan said in rugby league, but in rugby union, I'm probably more proud of the impact I made as an inside centre, really, in the way that the style of play that I brought to the game. I managed to impact the game more than what I thought I would. So the fact that I didn't get more caps, is disappointing. But at the end of the day, it's just one man's decision, and and I did much more than that in the game.
Was Stuart Lancaster a roadblock for you? And I'm saying that because I know he was for someone like James Haskell, and I've heard that from his mouth, and Danny Cipriani as well. He seemed to be a coach that if he wasn't having you as a bloke, it didn't necessarily matter what you were doing on the field.
Lancaster was fine. Like Lancaster, I reckon if Lancaster picked the team, I would have played plenty more.
So what are we talking, Carl? So we talking Rob Andrew? Are we just talking RFU dinosaurs?
In terms of team selection?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that Lancaster selected the team whole, solely. And I don't mean that anybody was picking it for him, but I mean, I think Lancaster was well in tune with what we was doing at Bath, and he liked it, and he would have probably selected me on a few more occasions. I think the obstacle might have been in the style of play, really, and that's something that the coaches would have to decide. But I think Lancaster was probably leaning more towards the way we played at Bath, and there's many occasions when the whole Bath back line got picked, and I'd be a reserve, which doesn't make any sense, does it? If George Ford's starting at 10 and Joseph starting at 13 and Watson starting on the wing, I'm directly in the middle of that. I'm the 12, like I'm the one that's, do you know what I mean? So there's plenty of occasions that there was never a time when I played in that setup. So it is what it is, but there's no issue whatsoever, mate. It's just, it is what it is.
In terms of coming back then, Carl, to Leeds and to Super League and to the Rhinos, what offers did you have at the time? Was staying in Union an option? I know you've been tempted because of Richard Agar, who you worked with at England Academy when you were a youngster, and obviously Sean Long at St Helens as well.
Yeah. I just think I got to a stage in my career, if I'm being honest. I had some opportunities in France and in the Premiership, but I've just got to a stage in my career where I just want to be around the right set of people, right now. Listen, I'm not coming back to rugby league for a payday, am I? Do you know what I mean? Like that's obvious. But I do love rugby, and I feel in the right environment that I can thrive. And to be honest, with Kev being at Leeds and Richard Agar from England under 18s and Longy being there, I just don't know, even if I went to Premiership Rugby Union, could I get that sort of infrastructure around me to make me, to improve me again, essentially, to believe in me and somebody and some people that I can trust. I don't think I could get that. So it's quite simple, really. Once Leeds was interested, it was simple for me.
You mentioned trust there, Kyle. Has that been an issue in these last few years?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like I said at the start, fighting with the integrity thing, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not a bad person in terms of I wouldn't say anything bad about anyone, but just at this stage in my career where I'm playing because I want to play, not because I have to play or I need to go and take a new... That's not the case. The case is I want to play, so the trust is crucial for me. Some people that are gonna, they want me there for the right reasons, and I can, they believe in what I can do. So,
Carl, I want to ask you this because when people ask you that cliched question, and especially when you've played in two different codes like that, did you have any regrets? Do you regret going to and that question in general in life, do you have any regrets? I mean, I'm sure Wilco's the same as me. Initially the answer is just, oh no, I don't regret anything. But if I look back on my life, I have so many fucking regrets. I mean, I'm like Wilco as well. We are probably very, very flawed individual people. When you look back at, very flawed, very flawed. Do you? Let me ask you this one first. Do you wish you'd come back earlier to league?
No chance.
So it's the
you want
right
to expand
time
on
for you
that?
in terms of you're 31. Yeah, I do.
No, I just say I think the time I went and the time I've come back has been are the right times for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, I think it's the right time. Yeah.
How do you think you're going to go in league now you're back? Because we had a good chat, me and Kyle, the other day, and I was chatting about the nuanced sort of differences between league and union. And look, one thing that drives me crazy both ways is that when either side's spectators are critical of the other. I think both games have got like the merits and both games have got the flaws. And like you've got, there's a lot of snobbery, right? We talk about a media bias towards rugby union. Well, there's probably an entire game bias towards rugby union from rugby league, as in we think it's an inferior product. We always talk about it being an inferior product, but it's just so different. So what I'm interested to see is, instead of Kyle thinking more tactically and adapting really quickly to subtle changes in union, to how he's going to adapt back to that rugby league sort of mentality where anything is possible. You know, you play a bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's loads that I genuinely thought when I came back is like there's nothing. I thought maybe a little bit of, off-field stuff I might be able to, help with this, that, and the other, and help, in the preparation for a game. But I just learned in the last couple of weeks there's loads that cross over in between both sports, and I don't understand why we don't tap into each sport, from either end. And obviously there's a few things that you got to brush up on and stuff, but my goal is to not just turn into a full-on rugby league player. Like the same way when I went to rugby union, I didn't turn into a rugby union player. I was a rugby league player that played rugby union, and I learned the fundamentals of the game, and I made sure I can clean a ruck, and I made sure I played the rugby union way. But ultimately, my unique quality was being a rugby league player. So when I come back here, I'm still going to play like a rugby league player, but there's rugby union things that I can incorporate into the game. And if that helps me or helps the team or helps one of the other players, then I'm going to implement it 100%.
You're just going to be wazzing line-outs in?
Yeah, just taking quick line-outs. Let's go.
Is it just obvious that you're going to go straight back into the halves, having played centre in union?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's natural position for me to play. Probably the easiest thing for me to do, really.
Look, Wilco, with your pundit hat on, and you, Mark, as well, what can Kyle at 31 still achieve in league?
What hat have I got?
Because he's not going to say great things about himself, is he?
What can he achieve in rugby league? Well, he can whatever he wants. Do you know what I mean? It's just there's a handful of people that throughout your course of your career who have a tactical awareness or like a wide focus about what's happening in a rugby league game, who can assess momentum and take opportunities and kick the ball and pass the ball both ways, and who are constantly breaking a play down a few plays at a time. And I find it really interesting listening to Kyle. I think one of the things Kyle will bring back to rugby league from union is that, that constant decision making, every few minutes or seconds, things changing, little subtle changes. Every ruck's a competition, so you've got to constantly adapt your mindset. Like, I'm really interested. Like, I'd love it if Kyle came back and just tore up the playbook of rugby league and just went, right, let's just go at it somehow, in a different way. So what can he achieve? He can achieve a lot, but a lot's dependent on the team that he's playing for, and that's Kyle is adding a lot of value to that team, in my opinion. I think Leeds are a great side, a good side. But for me, Wigan and Saints are the big boys, and Kyle can make a real difference to them. But it dictates what you can achieve in terms of, are we talking trophies or are we talking, personal performance? If you're talking personal performance, Kyle will blow the league to bits in time. But I think he will need time, just inevitably, to get his movement patterns back. So for the people who want to tune in week one and judge Kyle Eastmond as a rugby league player now, well, I think you're stupid. Like, view him, get to Easter, and then we'll see how Kyle's going.
And I think that'll suit Kyle's game as well. With with the way he plays and, dry weather football, rugby league will suit him perfectly. I think Leeds will be quite smart with how they drip feed him into the season. I'm not sure how they are for injuries, but they've got quite a few halves and spine players there at Leeds. So I can only reiterate what John said. I think for the middle of the season, he'll have a great year and probably push for the World Cup squad if that's what he wants. But having read an article about Kyle coming back, there was a headline that was 31. Now, I think he could, if he wants to, have a good 5-6 years back in rugby league, should he choose to. And that's for a few reasons. Firstly, he doesn't just rely on his athletic ability. He's got smarts, he's got game knowledge, and he's got a great skill set. So that, as we saw with other players like Lee Breers and Sean Long who play in the halves, they can play well into the mid-30s and still excel because they're getting wiser and getting smarter about the game. And secondly, I think he's probably not had that many collisions these last 3 or 4 years in rugby union, and that adds to the durability of a player. And I think probably the best we'll see of Kyle is maybe not this season, it's the year after and the year after that.
It's a funny thing about age though, because age is a weird thing in sport, isn't it? Because people use it against you when things aren't going well. So if something doesn't go well, it's your age. But if you play well, then it's your experience. It's like, well, what?
Yeah.
What you?
It's two words
you doing to me?
describe the same thing.
So right, okay. Me and Paul Wellens played in the halves for Saints after Kyle fucked off and took the money in Union. So he left when he left us in the lurch. So I was there playing halfback. Basically, it said in the papers, St Helens halfbacks with a combined age of 70. Me and Weller. But we were playing against Leeds. We were playing Leeds, who had Kevin Sinfield and Danny Maguire, and they were 70. But the only reason it said 70 about us is because we lost.
Because you were shit.
So, yeah, exactly.
Look, Flash mentioned it there, Kyle. And I know you've got to get in the Leeds team first, but is that in your mind at all? Be honest, the World Cup, can you get to that World Cup squad?
It's definitely not in my mind, to be honest. I think I'd be stupid to even be looking at that. My goal is to just get playing well as quick as I can in this Leeds team, and then we'll see where that takes us, really.
I wanted to ask you as well, and I know we see a lot of players going from league to union and some even coming back to league like you've done. We very, very rarely see players who've just been brought up playing union switch over and play league. And we've had, haven't we, Mark? We had your old mate, George Ford, another Oldham boy, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Another Oldham boy on. And he made no secret of one day wanting to play rugby league. You've been in a dressing room with him. Owen Farrell as well, with his father and his background. Could you see those two? There's even conversations that you've had. Could you see them playing in league before they hang up their boots in union?
Mate, they earn a fortune, mate. There's no way.
Come on, Kyle. Let's get the money.
Money,
come on.
haven't they?
How much? What we talking?
No,
George
I can't,
Ford,
mate. I can't.
You can.
I can't.
He knows that.
All right. Just raise your right eyebrow if it's north of 2 million.
That works on a podcast, doesn't it?
I think both of them are massive on rugby league. It wouldn't surprise me at all if at some stage, probably especially Owen. I think George would fancy it as well, but it wouldn't surprise me if they both had a crack at some stage. To be honest.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. They've had enough big contracts, haven't they, with money? And I know, look, you can never have enough big contracts going forward, but it must be an itch that they really want to scratch just from where they've come from, and that is their roots, isn't it? I mean, it would be massive for Super League if you could get those two. No, or not, Wilco?
No, I just think what we're doing now is right. Where what you would do then in that situation is pay someone a huge amount of money to get like the back end of their career. What the game needs to focus on is stopping Kyle Eastmond from leaving the game, right? St Helens put 10 years of development into this kid. He was an England international. He would have been the best scrum half in World Rugby League. And the game couldn't keep him because commercially it's flawed. So Rugby Union commercially has got its stuff together. And all it's doing is attracting the best athletes. It's no coincidence that rugby union never came knocking on the door for me or Flash. You know what I'm saying? They can pick the best guys, hand-pick the best 4 or 5 guys. But it's only 5 players, right? But the net impact of those 5 players is huge. You're talking about your 5 best players. We're celebrating the fact they're playing in the NRL now. That's how weird rugby league is. I think the Super League retweet Canberra's wins because it's got English lads in it. I'm thinking they should be playing in Super League.
It's the lesser of two evils, isn't it? Because they think they're going to leave, but would rather them leave to the NRL than go to rugby union.
Yeah, but let's get a strategy.
Doesn't make sense.
Get a strategy to keep them. Not let's get a strategy to get Owen Farrell and George Ford for some media headlines. Let's make a strategy to make sure that the lads aren't playing in other competitions.
Fair enough. Look, we've kept you a long time, Kyle. We have a strange and an eclectic mixture of listeners for Out of Your League. And we always do question time, which pops up every week. Question time. And you guys can get involved if you're listening every week on Twitter, Out of Your RL. This one from Sean Bibby, who says, we'll kick you off with a nice easy one. As a young Saints player, did John Wilkin make you cry?
Impossible.
What? Impossible.
No, he didn't. No,
that never happened. Hey, look! Don't shoot the question asker. That's come in. This one from Craig Paget. Did you ever have any other offers from Super League clubs? If so, was Sean Long OBE, which I only realised stands for one big I recently, the biggest factor on your move to the Rhinos?
Like I said, the three guys there in the coaching staff was the main reason. The infrastructure they have: Kev, Sean Long, and Richard Agar.
Kyle, I don't want to go all Paxman on you. Were there any other Super League clubs in for you?
This time round, no, Leeds.
No,
just Leeds.
Okay. Right, Dan Heyman says, "What's your best Nick Fozzard story?"
Wow.
He'd get locked up, wouldn't he, if you told that?
Yeah, I think...
No, you can. I told worse on here, Kyle. Yeah, it's the truth tree. We're in the truth tree. It's fine.
Circle of trust, mate. It's just us. No one's listening.
Wilco, we can't. The ones that I know in the back of the car, we can't do it.
You can't.
Sorry.
We can.
There's nothing like 15 or 12 or PG.
No. Foz was straight. Triple X. There was nothing,
Should we get Foz on the show so we can tell him himself?
No,
please.
No,
it's
a disaster.
Right, a few more here. This one from the Saint. Actually, this one's for you, John. Very funny commentary on Makinson's testimonial on Saturday. What did he do? Anything that we should know about?
No, I was trying to be serious the whole way, so it's interesting.
Phil H says to Kyle, would you rather have a laugh that smells like a fart or a laugh that sounds like a fart?
It sounds like... You don't want one that smells like that, do you? Ridiculous.
No.
But you're making like a fart noise as soon as you laugh everywhere.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to go for?
Yeah, we'll take that, no problem.
And this one from John, just out of interest, what would you go for out of those two?
I don't have a choice, Will, as you know.
Halitosis. And this one from Lewis Bradney, who says, do you ever think that there will be a boy born who can swim faster than a shark, Kyle?
No.
That's off the office, isn't it?
No.
I don't get it.
He looks so confused as that question.
I'm very confused.
Look, I don't ask the questions. I just read out the questions we've got. So look, if we need a new level of questions, then that's going to happen next week.
Have we not got quick fire questions, Will?
No quick fires this week. No, we're being all serious this week. Any other business, John Wilkin and Mark Flanagan, before we let Kyle go?
No, we've kept the guy long enough, but thanks for coming on, Kyle. Great, good insight there. And I think you know what you're saying about the right people speaking out and speaking in a right way. I think there's something really powerful in some of the bits you've come out with there. Something really powerful as well. So good on you, mate.
Cheers, buddy.
I just want to see him back playing and back to where he belongs and wish you all the best for this season, mate.
Thanks a lot, lads. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, Carl. Appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much for listening to Out of Your League. We're going to have a new episode for you every week, available to download from wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube, and don't forget to give us a little follow on @OutOfYourRL on Twitter. Be seeing you.